Quite a few years back, my husband and I went to an auction. Most of the furniture in my house is from auctions over the years. And they were auctioning off full-size carousel horses. Oh, wow. Just unbelievably gorgeous. I, of course, wanted one. However, it cost a couple months' salary to get one. So I came home and I went to the library and got another book on carousel horses. And over 3 years, that book lived at my house. I would renew it the 3 times I was allowed. Then my husband would take it up 3 times. Then I would take it up 3 times. And I sketched over and over and over again. A few years later, I started doing paintings more, and I did a series of just the heads of the carousel horses. So this is one of the series I did. And the really interesting part to me is, quite a few years after I painted this, we were camping a little bit north of North Bay, and it rained every single solitary day for 2 weeks. Just poured and poured and poured. So we started doing day trips. And one of the places we went to was the boardwalk water area in North Bay, and they have a reproduction of the carousel horses there. And this horse that I had painted was actually one of the horses that were there. Wow. So of course I had to ride it. Anyways, that's my story. And if you get a chance when you're looking around at the paintings, what I like most actually is the background I put on here. I probably spent 3 days painting the background.
This piece is called Joie de Vivre, and it's my attitude about life. I've had a number of issues through the years, but I always want to turn them around to be challenges. And so this is my joy of life. And if any of you visual artists want to play with glass, I do teach too. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Annette Westlake. I painted the wolf in 2010. It was here at the gallery. It got honorable mention. It was a 10 by 10 show, and it had another painting like this, which got sold. And this called Song of the Wilderness for my wildlife paintings. I love painting wildlife, and it was this, I tried to put a little wolf who's singing to the moon in the bark to make it a little bit different. I did a few paintings like that as well, putting little pictures in the bark.
This is a picture of when I went hiking in Zion Park, trekking through the national parks in the States last year. It shows it. I've got, if you know me, I've got watercolors and acrylics and sculptures and all kinds of experimental art and so on. But I chose this because it really shows my passion. Ever since I've been about this high, I've been wandering away from home and getting lost, and my poor mother. But I've been exploring out in nature, and when I get out exploring, it's a little bit of a lot of different things. It's some challenge, some fear, some joy, some fatigue, some, I don't know, like this particular trek. But there's also some luck involved, and this is ice cold water, and it got deeper and deeper, like almost, I got up to about here, and you're trekking for hours. There's rocks under there, and so it's quite a workout. And the canyons are, you can't really see, but they're sky high, and it's a whole day's workout. It's like 6 to 8 hours of trekking through this. I don't know, I love getting out and seeing the earth. Like, I used to have a rock collection when I was about 7 years of age, and I'd haul home rocks and more rocks, and my mother kept throwing them out. But she didn't understand that I was actually reading about and learning about. Like, I'd go out and try and bring home a very specific type of rock to fit the collection, and she just throw it all out. And then as an adult, I'd go to Antarctica and bring home a little piece of a very specific rock, so it doesn't change, you know. You just keep going and going. I just kept exploring more of the earth. I was a scuba diver and I'd go explore the fish and the coral and just keep going. And it's all just fuel for more art, more writing, more photography. Just love exploring, it's a passion.
Yeah, I chose this picture because it was an important new beginning for me, but it represents a change that I had in my life about, I think it's over 40 years ago. There actually were no galleries in all these little towns everywhere in Ontario. So pretty much the only place that you could really see art in those days, of quality, was at the AGO or whatever. And I was doing artwork ever since I was a little child, but I had an opportunity when I was in university, at the University of Toronto, to work in Algonquin Park, because I tried to get to work in Algonquin Park, and I'd been there when I was a kid, and I could remember that I really wanted to be there. So I worked in the 70s in interpretation and later in wildlife research that informed my later career in wildlife, but I always have an attachment to place, and in many places, including as far as Korea or Africa and places I've been in my life. But place is so important to what I do. And when I look at a landscape, I know this, because people tell me this, I see something quite often quite different than everybody else, because I also have the academic background of the physical geography, the landscape, what I'm looking at, so I pull those things out when I do my work. This is great, Big Trout Lake, which, if you know, Algonquin Park is kind of in the middle of the park. And when I worked as a naturalist there in the day, in the 70s, we had an opportunity before the public showed up at the old museum to actually canoe in. It was a slower time, but the interpreters to actually go through the park. So we did a number of routes, which of course took us into places where Tom Thomson worked and painted. So I was really fortunate to see a lot of those locations where he painted, and the pictures were there. If you go back today, they don't look anything like what he painted and when he did. Big Trout Lake is a classic one, because as a canoe ranger, you're pretty well, a lot of in the west, or the west side of the park, a lot of the canoe routes end up there and then go off again out to the east end. So an important part of my life was having that great experience when I was younger, to look at that landscape and paint it. Algonquin Park.